Okay. So yeah, so this is what we discussed the last time. So indecision is the fifth problem or fifth reason that Arjuna is giving, and we'll discuss that in this chapter. Okay. So where does this chapter begin? Let me go to the summary of that. So this is the analysis of the chapter, how the verses have been defined. We talked about the connection between chapter 1 and 2, which is that Arjun presents reasons and doubts why not to fight. And then when he's just carrying on with his reasons. Actually, the last one is not that of a reason, it's more of an indecision, that I'm not sure what's right and wrong. And after that confusion, he accepts Krishna as his guru. So relationship changes there. So that's the relationship between the two chapters. So it's important for us to understand what is the relationship between each chapter, because as we go on, there will be many chapters that will be seen completely out of place to say, where did Krishna bring this from? But then there's always a connection between the chapters. So that's something we have to keep in mind. So yes, so we'll talk about this, and then the last, before ending, I showed you this graph here, this chart here, that how Krishna is going to refute all the arguments that Arjuna has given in this chapter. And so the second section, the Jnana section, that will be refuted in verses 27 to 30, and so on and so forth. So that's what it is. So the beginning of this chapter, the second chapter, is about surrender, right? And the two prominent reasons for surrender are, one is the perplexity at every step that we face, and secondly, to understand that material qualifications are not enough to solve that perplexity of life. Material life is full of perplexities. We are bombarded from every single direction, every time, and we are bewildered, right? And we always have an option. There's obviously a clear option between good and bad, but sometimes there's also an option between good and better good, right? So right now in this chapter, we'll see that how Arjun is in a perplexity to fight or not fight, right? And he has numerous material qualifications, but those numerous material qualifications, he had a good birth, he had aristocratic relatives, his bodily prowess, but then all that was not sufficient to solve the problem that he was facing. And therefore, he had to surrender to a guru. Right? So guru helps in overcoming perplexity and misidentification through transcendental wisdom. So what the guru provides is, it provides inspiration. The guru will provide a facility, knowledge, and also engagement for us to overcome that perplexity that we are facing. That therefore surrender. That is the main theme of the first section, 2.1 to 2.10, right? And then the second one comes as Jnana Yoga. So elaborating upon the Atma Tattva, difference between material and spiritual life, material and spiritual. Right? Krishna will bring out many characteristics of the soul that, nobody can burn it, nobody can put it on fire, nobody can break it, and he'll give a lot of different perspectives so that we can rise above the perplexities that we are facing, right? So what it helps us is that, and we have talked about this earlier on, that when we read Bhagavad Gita every day, our intelligence becomes stronger and stronger and comes to a point where we are no more slaves to the mind, and we're not taking decisions that are not beneficial for us. Right now, under the control of the mind, I take decisions which I know are not beneficial for me. I still do them just because I'm so much controlled by my mind, by my, by doing the same thing again and again. I've become so bound to it that, I feel like I'll not be able to live without this. So the intelligence becomes the parent in the room, and then it takes over. So that's why we need to understand the difference between body and mind, right? So this proper understanding of the jnana can help us overcome the perplexity, right? And then furthermore, because I'm not a body, but I'm a soul, right? Then there are two different duties that come to our way. One is towards the body and its extension. And the second one is towards God and my relationship with God. So that's called Swadharma and Nitya Dharma. Swadharma is material duty. Nitya Dharma is spiritual duty, my duty towards Krishna. And to some point, these both have to be practiced. We cannot just give up this material world and just, only practice material life. That's impractical, especially in today's Kali Yuga. So therefore, when we understand both of them and we understand their positions, this is, this is material world, this is spiritual life. And when I understand them and I contrast them, then I become then I'm able to live my life peacefully and I'm not shaken up in perplexity, right? So that we'll talk about in Karma Kanda. Part of that is the material life, right? That how do we live our material life properly? That's Karma Kanda section. And then Krishna will come to Buddhi Yoga, where, eventually he'll give more details about how to practice this, the principle that, the Nitya Dharma, my relationship with God. How do I do that? And last but not least is what does it, all of those steps do? Learning about Jnana, Karma, and Buddhi Yoga, what does it leave me at? It makes me a Sthita Pragya. So Sthita Pragya, it means it's steady in one's consciousness. It's not shaken up in perplexity, right? That's the ultimate good to be. So that's the ultimate good to be, yes. So these problems of life can also be pillars to our success. They are very much like blows of a blacksmith on the, like a hammer of a blacksmith that falls on the metal to reshape the metal. So when problems of this life come to us, we approach Bhagavad Gita, we approach a guru, and then that reshapes our consciousness. Okay. And Bhagavad Gita offers us the right paradigm. So paradigm means why we are supposed to do what we are doing. Okay. So that's explained in Bhagavad Gita. The principles are explained. What exactly we are doing, what is it? And then practices are given. Okay, how are we supposed to practice this? So that's the why, what, and how, right? So unless we have clear answers to these three, why, what, and how, we have paradigms, principles, and practices, we will always have chaos in our lives. And the chapter's name was, the first one was Observing the Armies. So similar to what Arjun was doing, we are also looking at a battlefield in our lives at 24/7. We have battles against health, family, there are existential issues on a daily basis. So we get into the battle and we try to figure it out ourselves, just like Arjun, right? Krishna is right there. And what does Arjun tell him? Senayor ubhayor madhe ratham sthapyo me achyuta. That, Krishna, take me into the middle of the battlefield and I want to see who all are there, right? So that's what Arjun is doing. So he's not taking help of Krishna, and that's what resulted in his chaos, right? The concept of Dehatma Buddhi, that aham mameti, me and mine, I am this body. So that is the reason for it. So having done this problem description in the first chapter, we get a clue from Arjun that however we may be, however smart we may be, we need a mentor, a teacher, right? So now moving to the second chapter. The second chapter is titled as Sankhya Yoga. So if you look at the Sanskrit, it's generally called Sankhya Yoga, right? Prabhupada translates as contents of the Gita summarized. That's a title he has picked up from Bhakti Vinod Thakur. And I mentioned this earlier. The chapter titles change from one person who's translating to another. So you might see different titles, but Prabhupada gives us title exactly according to the thought process in the Bhagavad Gita that's being presented. Okay. So that's the background here. Okay, that's what is going to be done. So let's go to the Bhagavad Gita. So the first verse is being spoken by Sanjaya. Saying Sanjaya Vacha Tam Tatha Karpaya Veshtam Ashru Purnakulekshanam Vishidantam Idam Vakyam Vacha Madhusudana. Sanjaya said, seeing Arjun full of compassion, his mind depressed, his eyes full of tears, Madhusudan, Krishna, spoke the following words. So here, now Prabhupada is taking a focus, or Krishna, or not Krishna, Sanjaya, he's presenting us with the bodily emotions that Arjun is presenting. Now he's seeing that he's full of compassion, his mind is depressed, his eyes are full of tears, right? And Prabhupada immediately, he kicks off the purport by telling us that all these signs are signs of ignorance. So we read in the last chapter, right, towards the end, that how Prabhupada, that in one purport would call Arjun a devotee, in the other one he'll call him a mentally directed by material fear, and then somewhere again he'll bring him back as a devotee. So Prabhupada very, very clearly gives us in his purport the exact perspective of Arjun when he's presenting a particular emotion. So right here, Prabhupada is telling us that all these are signs of ignorance of the real self. So Prabhupada is telling us that all the signs that Arjun is demonstrating here are on a material platform, right? So, right, so he starts with this one. And now there are three words that are very important here. Kripaya Vishtam. Let's look at that. Kripaya Vishtam, one word, very important one. Trying to highlight. Ashru, and then the third one is Vishīdantam here. So there are three phrases, three words that are being used. So Karpaya Vishtam, overwhelmed by compassion. Ashru means tears. And Vishīdantam is lamentation. So these three words. So imagine a Kshatriya who's going through this, right? A Kshatriya, they are so strong that they wouldn't even shed a drop of tear even after being severely wounded in a battle. Here, now you see that the Kshatriya spirit is completely dampened for Arjun, and he's going through so much of suffering. He's just his mind is reeling, right? So what Arjun is representing here is that our fundamental suffering is because of my illusion, and therefore compassion for the soul is self-realization. That's the important aspect. That's something for me to learn here, that out of illusion, I see all the suffering that in my life are because of my illusion, right? So what we have to do is redirect ourselves towards spiritual realization, right? And here Krishna is being called Madhusudana. He's the killer of Madhu demon. So the reason that Sanjay is calling Krishna as Madhusudan is because Madhu was a demon, right? Madhu and Kaitaba, they were two demons. The story comes in Srimad Bhagavatam, that how they steal Vedas from Brahma. And the demon Madhu was very proud of that, oh, I stole the Vedas I stole the knowledge from Brahma. So Krishna being Madhusudan, the person who killed that demon Madhu, so Krishna as is being told as a person who can slash our doubts. So who can kill Madhu, the demon Madhu, who was very proud of taking away the Vedas, and because of that proud, he was in a kind of a state where he was not able to where his real knowledge was taken away, right? So that was a state of Madhu demon, that he got into pride, and so Krishna slashes our doubts, and he kills demons like Madhu, and then what he does after slashing the doubts, our real knowledge becomes evident to us again. So that's why the word Madhusudan is being used here by Sanjaya. Okay, so let me see if there is more in this purport. Okay, yes. Prabhupada gives us the reason why Bhagavad Gita, what does Bhagavad Gita do? So Bhagavad Gita dissipates the lamentation of the ignorant man. And that's the purpose of Bhagavad Gita. So what the Bhagavad Gita is like, how to say it? So the Gita setting is such that it indicates that the nature of the world is that events will sooner or later, they will impel us to lament, right? But what Gita does is that it takes our vision beyond this material world to the Supreme. And once we connect with the Supreme, or not even connect fully, even just we have an inkling that yes, there is somebody to protect me, that enduring love of Krishna, it gives us a confidence to tolerate and transcend the unenduring storms of the world, right? So there's one underlying question that we can always ask ourselves, is that, is there anything in this world after achieving which we will not we will not crave or lament. Is there any situation which can result in complete elimination of our lamentation? And the answer is no. And if that is the answer, then why am I struggling so much in this material world? Why am I struggling 24/7 to make things better and better every day for myself? Well, there's no harm in trying that, but the problem is not trying. The problem is the attachment to that effort. So what Bhagavad Gita is teaching us through Arjun is that we have to have a sense of responsibility that I'm suffering because I took a wrong turn in life, right? If you read the Srimad Bhagavatam, you will realize that all the stories in Srimad Bhagavatam, they are precipitated by some form of human weakness, a human frailty, right? And then when these people, they are in these the states of weakness, their state of perplexity, what they do is they immediately look for divine grace. So that's what is being taught to us through Bhagavad Gita, through Arjun, that whenever we are in trouble, we can never solve that problem. A time will come when we'll not be able to solve the problem ourselves. We might be able to solve one problem, two problems here and there, tiny ones, but then when a time will come when we'll be overwhelmed with those problems and those insurmountable obstacles, will eventually, if we are properly situated, if we have been reading Bhagavad Gita regularly, we will look for divine grace at that time. And Krishna is also sitting in my heart as Chaitya Guru, and he prompts us to take shelter, right? In those uncomfortable situations when I'm locked up in lamentation, helplessness, because I'm asking the wrong questions, or I'm trying to solve it myself. But then when I look towards the divine help, then all that negative energy, that emotional negativity is dissipated. It gets slowly released. And that's what Arjun is demonstrating here, that he's in a position where the perplexity is beyond his comprehension and solution. So that's where the first verse starts with. Any thoughts or comments before I move forward?
So Prabhu,
Okay.
Prabhu,
Yes, please.
the material compassion, because as devotees, we're always taught to be compassionate. So, like, like, so is that compassion consider, towards devotees, towards, all living entities? So where does that fall on? Isn't that material compassion?
So the bottom line would be that doing a compassionate activity without God consciousness is not good. That's the way we have to understand that, right? It's natural for for all of us to be compassionate, for a compassionate heart to want to help people. At the same time, we must see how best we can help someone. We all have limited resources, right? And we also have to think what is the most effective way in which we can help others, right? Just if I give you an analogy, let's see there's a hospital, right? And then next to the hospital is a medical college. Then generally that's the way the thing happens. And somebody might come screaming to the to the students in the medical college and say, why are you all sitting here in the classroom? Somebody's dying there, go and help them. Now, if it might seem to us that the students have been sitting for hours reading, and on the other hand, just in the next door building, there are people dying. They should do something. But then, however, for them to do something practical, they need to learn the science, right? So it's the same way. If what I'm trying to say is that if our compassion doesn't come with a proper, it's not in a proper effective way, it will not be very helpful to the person we are presenting it to. That's the thing we have to understand, right? So so to answer your question, compassion is not bad. Compassion is good, but we have to be compassionate due to our limited resources. We have to be compassionate in the most effective way possible. And we must see how best we can help someone in that given situation that we find that person in. That's the way to look at it, Mati.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. That explains.
Yeah. Any more thoughts on anybody's mind? And I'm always reminded of an example when it comes to compassion. Chaitanya Charan Prabhu gives that example quite often, that when he was, before coming to Krishna consciousness, he would go and teach students in a, not kids in a slum area, and he would teach them maths and English. And those kids were, parents were drunkards, and they had all problems that you can ever think of in a household. And what he would do, he was going to teach them maths and English and many subjects, and he would also try to help the parents that they could, to avoid drinking and all that. And he was really happy that one day that he came and told his friend that, oh, so many families in this village now, or in this slum now, are free of drink. They haven't had a drop of alcohol for so many days, and he was very happy. But 2 days later, when he goes, he sees that practically every single person in the whole slum was drunk. Even the kids were drunk. And he comes to know that a politician in that area had come, and he had donated free alcohol, free meat, just to get their votes, and you ought to get them to do some work for him. And it was all free, so everybody got drunk, and they were back to their square one. So even though his intention was correct, but the method that he was adopting was not effective enough, right? So materially, we can help anyone to a finite degree only, right? However, if we can equip them, if we equip someone to help themselves, then that is a far greater help, right? So by ourselves become spiritual, and by sharing spirituality with others, we are equipping people to become the best that they can be. And that is why compassion is spiritual compassion, you can say, is the best way to help somebody, because we are equipping people to fight the negativities in their life within themselves through spiritual knowledge. So that's the best way to do it. Yes, that was thought there. Yes. Any more thoughts before we move ahead? No? Okay. So I'll just quickly read this particular part where Prabhupada is saying that this chapter instructs us in self-realization by an analytical study of the material body and the spirit soul. This is the Sankhya Yoga part we talked about, which comes after this 2.1 to 2.10 is Arjun's indecision, and then 2.11 to I think 2.30 is this Sankhya Yoga, which Prabhupada is highlighting here. This realization is possible when one works without attachment to fruitive results and is situated in the fixed conception of the real self. Right? So that's where we want to be. That's our goal, a fixed conception of real self. Okay, so now we come to the next two verses, and now, okay, this I forgot. So this is the theme for the first section. Now we'll delve deeper into the first section. And there are some very important verses here. So we'll go into detail, some words that Prabhupada or Krishna uses. Sorry, Sanjay is speaking those, I think. Sanjay, Krishna, sorry, Krishna is speaking. So we'll go into those words, and we'll go into detail in that. So I highlighted the practical application, which I also said it out loud, that when there is no shelter, we should take shelter of the spiritual authority. So these are the ones. So looking at verse 2.2 and 2.3. So now 2.2 and 2.3. Somebody wants to read 2.2 first?
Acharya. Shri
Yes, please.
Bhagavan Uvacha Kutastam Shalam Idam Kasmalam Idam Hisame Samupastam Anarayam Justam Avarayam Akrita Karam Arjuna.
Thank you. Yes, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kutastva Kashmalamidam Vishame Samupashtitam Anarya Jushtam Asvargyam Akirtikaram Arjuna. Right. So here the words I have highlighted here are important ones. And when we go to the purport of the second one, so what Prabhupada does is, Prabhupada right in the beginning, he starts by talking about Krishna. So the word he's talking about is Bhagwan. It says Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. So Prabhupada right off kicks off this, his entire purport is about Bhagwan. Okay. He talks about it throughout the purport. And the reason Prabhupada had to do that, because what he was trying to do is, he was actually doing this, that he was establishing Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? Because he wanted to establish the fact that the Supreme Person, Supreme Absolute Truth is a person. And energy cannot speak. So Krishna is not, it's not that Krishna is the not unborn, he's not the unmanifest. Some people call him Nirakar, or he's something inside me. That is mental speculation. That is extrapolation. People, that is too much extrapolation, right? So you'll notice that throughout Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada uses phrases like mental speculation, but then there's a similar phrase that comes up is contemplation. And important for us to understand is that there's a huge difference between both of them. Mental speculation and contemplation, right? So mental speculation could be, if I give you an example of what does mental speculation mean, it's like somebody might say that, oh, the God is black, Krishna is black. So, but then they'll say, oh, but God should not be black because black is a sign of ignorance, right? And then blackness also indicates that we have to go beyond the darkness and go to light so that they can come to a conclusion that Krishna's black complexion means that we have to go beyond Krishna to the light. So that is mental speculation. Contemplation, on the other hand, is desirable. Okay, right? So, and contemplation is necessary for developing a relationship with Krishna, right? Because it's our capacity to contemplate. But that contemplation happens under the guidance of a guru, sadhu, and shastra. In the first verse of Bhagavatam talks about dhimahi. So dhimahi means meditate. And then there's also, it says relish. So there are phrases that tell us that we have to contemplate on Krishna, think about him. But it's very much like there are two dots, and we can connect those dots in many ways. That's okay. So that's contemplation. But those two dots have to connect. If those two dots don't connect, it becomes mental speculation, right? So we can rephrase philosophy in many different ways. Right? So we can use metaphors, we can use other analogies, but when the original meaning is subverted, it becomes mental speculation. So that's one thing that I wanted to highlight here, that is why Prabhupada is talking so much about the word Bhagavan in the purport. So if you see that Prabhupada, all the way he starts talking about it, he gives examples. He quotes this particular verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd chapter, 1st canto, 2nd chapter, where it's mentioned that there are three phases of understanding Bhagavan, of Krishna, which is Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan, Swayam Krishna. Krishna stu Bhagavan Swayam, as we are told in the Bhagavatam, right? And Prabhupada gives an example, but I'll give you an analogy like how you can understand these three concepts. Just imagine that Bill Gates, right? Let's take Bill Gates as an example. So Bill Gates, he owns Microsoft. He runs Microsoft. Okay, so he has some laws and policies in place that how will the business run. So we can understand Bill Gates by indirectly imbibing these policies, right? So that, okay, these are the policies. We know that indirectly that these have been set by Bill Gates. So that's an example of the Brahman concept of life, right? So that's the Brahman part, that we don't see that person directly, but with our environment, we can understand that the person exists. Then comes the example of Paramatma. We in our workplace, we all have these rooms where you can individually connect with anybody. There is a screen, you can connect your laptop to it, and you can talk to somebody. So Bill Gates can come to any computer in entire Microsoft, and he can talk to anybody whom he wants to, and he can personally guide that person. So that's Paramatma, who's sitting in our heart and guiding us. So that's very individual for us. So that's the Paramatma concept. And then comes the Bhagavan concept. Bhagavan concept, if you put it in Bill Gates scenario, so Bill Gates is not even in the Microsoft building now. Okay, he's in Switzerland. He's skiing with his loved ones. He's enjoying it. He has his own loved ones, his beloved friends, families, and he's enjoying with them. So that's the Bhagavan feature of Krishna. So that's the way to understand all three of them. That so similarly, Krishna also has a personal abode where he lives with his loved ones. So he's not interacting with this world directly, but still there is an expansion of his energies, which are like the laws of this world. We have a conscience, which is the voice of our Paramatma. And so we have to tune into the channel of our Paramatma. Right now, I have so many channels going on, and my antenna is catching channels of lust, greed, envy. But the more we chant, the more our antenna starts connecting with the channel of Paramatma. Right? So that's the reason why Prabhupada is talking about this one verse here, talking about the three different concepts of Krishna. Okay, and he goes on to explain. So this is another important part that comes up. Prabhupada is saying that the Supreme Personality, he possesses all six very important qualities. So this is a very practical way of understanding who is Bhagwan and who is not. Prabhupada, so there are six qualities that a person should have in complete opulence to be called as Bhagavan, which is Aishwarya, Virya, Yasha, Shreya, Jnana, and Vairagya, which is strength, fame, wealth, knowledge, beauty, and renunciation. That's how we identify who is who's Bhagavan. One who has complete of these six opulences is Bhagavan. So that's a very practical definition. Nowadays, everybody wants to become Bhagavan. You'll see so many gurus come up who say that, oh, I'm Bhagavan, and then that keeps going on. But we have a very clear-cut way of teaching how we can identify Bhagavan. There was this, and just to give you an example, what once happened is Prabhupada was, he was coming down an aeroplane. In the olden days, right, 70s, you could have practically walked to the aeroplane to receive the loved one who's coming. So Prabhupada was coming, the flight had landed, people were getting off the flight. One of Prabhupada's disciples, he was taking photographs, or was he standing with a garland? So he was there. What happens? The air hostess comes out first, and that disciple of Prabhupada, he starts looking at that air hostess, and that air hostess was very beautiful. The devotee was mesmerized by her beauty. And so just imagine that he's looking at the air hostess is walking past by him, and his head is turning according as the air hostess is walking past him. And to an extent that he actually has to turn his neck completely to see her go by. And the moment he turns his face back, Prabhupada is standing in front of him. And so you would think that Prabhupada would get angry on him. He says, I'm teaching you how to get rid of this, and you're trying to get entangled in this. No, what Prabhupada did was he asked him, wasn't she beautiful? so the devotee was perplexed. Now what do I say here? No. So he just mumbled something, and Prabhupada said, so just imagine if one living entity on this material world, which is not even the best of the best, heavenly people are much more, much more bodily glamour and glow. So in this material world, if you find somebody so beautiful, just imagine how beautiful Krishna is going to be, right? So that's the way Prabhupada connected it and taught that that Krishna is sampurn in his beauty. So if such a small spark of Krishna is so beautiful, just imagine how beautiful Krishna is. That is why Krishna is called, it says Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Vishesha Sobham. Brahma Samhita says that even Cupids can't resist Krishna's beauty. Right? Therefore, Krishna is Bhagavan Swayam. That's an important aspect coming out from this verse. That is why Prabhupada is talking about Bhagavan, because he just wanted to establish that right in the beginning. That all nonsense, whoever says that it's oh, we don't have to think about the speaker of Bhagavad Gita, we have to think about the God sitting in his heart. All that nonsense, Prabhupada is just throwing it out the window right away. So that's for us to imbibe that Krishna is a person. He's complete with these six qualities, and he's the original source of all the avatars we see. That's why Prabhupada brings out this verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd chapter. That all the lists of incarnations submitted herewith are either plenary expansions or parts of plenary expansions of Supreme Godhead. But Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. So Prabhupada is establishing that right up in the front. Okay. That's an important message coming out from this verse. Then comes to Anarya. Anarya, Anarya. So Arya, the word Aryan, Prabhupada talks about in the purport. The word Aryan is applicable to persons who know the value of life and a civilization based on spiritual knowledge. Okay. So to give you a brief background, so you all might have heard about the word Aryan, right? There is a sect in India, the Arya Samaj. So the word Aryan is very common. I just want to hear from you all. What do you think what the word Aryan means? You know, what is the concept that you have when you hear the word Aryan or Arya, whatever it may be? That's a question. I'm looking for answers.
Aryan means pure.
Aryan means pure. Pure in what sense do you mean, Prabhu? Spiritually pure, right? That's what Prabhupada is saying. Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Any other conceptions of the word Aryan for anybody else?
Prabhu, when I think of Aryan, we commonly hear, like those who invaded India. So you're familiar with that theory of, the Aryan invasion?
Yeah. Yeah, that's another thought that comes to our mind about the Aryan invasion. And that's something that was propagated by the Britishers. So the way history goes is that Aryan, the way Prabhupada has explained to us, that Aryan refers to those who know the real purpose of life, who know about our spiritual purpose of life, our spiritual values. They are Aryans. But then what happened is that when Britishers came to India, so Britishers were under this impression that they are the smartest and the most civilized society in the entire world, right? But when they saw the majesty of Indian culture, they were surprised. They thought that everybody else except them, except the Christians, are barbaric people, are nomads. So when Britain is Protestant Christians. So when Protestants came to America, India, Vasco da Gama, when he came to India, they all came to evangelize, right? They came to spread the gospel of Christianity. And what they had in mind was that everybody else is barbaric. They are, they have no culture. They're uncivilized people except us. And we are going to give everybody this knowledge. So looking at the superior culture of India, they were perplexed. They didn't know what to do about it. A culture so advanced, so much more advanced than the Greek and the Latin culture that the Britishers had seen, that they didn't know what to do. So the first thing they did was that they told that, and they knew about the word Aryan. They heard that because there were many Indologists at that time, Max Muller, Monier Williams, many of them who had translated some of the scriptures, and they had seen the word Aryan coming in that. And what they said is that just to break our spiritual values, they said that Aryan was a race from which the entire world was created, right? That's what they said, that the Latin, the Greek, the Indian, they are all offshoots of the Aryan culture. So what they told us was that this culture that I was living in India is not mine. It was borrowed. It was given to me as if somebody is giving me an alm, as if I'm a beggar or something. That broke our spiritual backbone. That was one way of looking at it. And then eventually later on, I would go into the details, but later on, Hitler, he used the word Aryan. He said that the Germans are the Aryan race. And so, and he said that, okay, now because we are the Aryan race, he made the Aryan idea, a Nazi ideology, and he positioned Germany as the one who's going to teach everybody what that culture is. And he adopted the swastika symbol, which is a symbol for auspiciousness for us, and he twisted it around, and it became an inauspiciousness for everyone in the world. So the word Aryan has been misused across the world, but Prabhupada is giving us the exact meaning of the word Aryan here. What does it mean? So I just wanted to highlight that the word Aryan is not what as the common misconception is. Two more important words coming here, Aswargyam and Akirtikaram. So word Aswargam means Aswarga and Akirtikaram. So it'll bring infamy to you, and it'll not take you to Swarga, because that's the desire of anybody, right? That okay, I do my duty and then I elevate, I move upwards. But Krishna is telling Arjun that if you quit this battle, you'll be subject to infamy, and also it will not take you higher in this planetary system. You will be suffering in this planetary. You might even go downwards because you have not done your duty properly. Right? So that's what are the three important words coming here. Then coming to 2.3. Would somebody like to read 2.3? No? Okay. Klebyam masma gama partha naitattvai upapadyate shudram hirdya daurvalyam tvayakto vatishta parantapa. Here now Krishna is saying, he's calling him Klebyam. So Klebyam means importance. Krishna is calling him an important. It's a verbal slap that is being dished out to him, right? Because Kshatriyas are a personification of masculinity. So Krishna what is Krishna doing now here is just giving a pep talk to Arjun. He's just trying to inspire Arjun, because yet Arjun has not surrendered to him, right? And using the word Klebya, an important, it'll bring out some very bad memories for Arjun. If you remember that in the 13 years of that they were asked to live in the forest, the last 1 year was supposedly to be incognito. And there, out of a curse that Arjun had got from one of the heavenly dancers, he was supposed to become a eunuch in the kingdom of Kashi, where they were. Was it Kashi? No. In the kingdom where they were living incognito. So he was like a eunuch. His name was Brannala, and then he was living there so this brings out very bad memories. So Krishna is trying to just give him a quick pep talk, calling him important. So it's a dignified way of chastising him. But then Arjun's depression is too strongly held. He's so depressed that all these insult is not helping him out. And then Prabhupada, the next phrase that Krishna brings out is Hirdaya Daurvalyam. Okay. And so Krishna is now also addressing, before I go to Hirdaya Daurvalyam, just want to quickly highlight that Krishna is also addressing him as Partha and Parantapa. So Partha means that he's son of Kunti, which is her name was Pritha, she's coming from a very aristocratic and an elevated background. And then Parantapa is somebody who's the chastiser of his enemies. So Krishna is addressing with these both names to indicate his glorious past. Okay. So now let's look at the word Hirdaya Daurvalyam. Before we go into that, let's just look at the fourth. So where does Hirdaya Daurvalyam fall under? And the reason I wanted to bring this out was because in my personal experience, when we are able to name the problem that we are facing, when we are able to define the problem, when we know the complete outline of that problem and we fully understand it, then we are able to fight it better. We are not as fearful of it as we would be if we don't know what the problem is. So that's why I just want to bring here that there are anarthas that we all suffer from, at least I suffer from. And those are divided into 4 main categories. One is Asat Trishna, the first one, which is to desire things other than Krishna, material desires. Then is Hirdaya Daurvalyam, which is weakness of the heart. Then there are aparadhas that we do, offenses, and they are broad. They're Naam Aparadh, holy name. Seva Aparadh, while we are doing services, we do a lot of aparadh. There is Vaishnava Aparadh. And in Vaishnava Aparadh, it could also mean the aparadh that I'm doing to others, but it also means the aparadh I'm doing to myself. Okay. And then the last one is Swarup Brahma. So Brahm means illusion, misconception. And that Brahm could be about, my position as a jiva, living entity, position of Krishna as God, Supreme Lord, position about the process that I have to adopt to reach Krishna. And then the misconception about, subjects that are unfavorable for my bhakti. So these are the four main aspects of anarthas that we do, and Hriday-daurbalyam is the most important one out of them. So Hriday-daurbalyam is further divided into four parts. So attachment to objects not related to Krishna. So if you see that Asat Trishna is desire, okay, but weakness of heart is actual attachment, which is a step above of desiring, right? So we all know that verse, right? Dhyaito Vishayan Pumsam, that has come in the second chapter it'll come in this chapter towards the end. Dhyaito Vishayan Pumsam, Sangashteshu Upjayate, Sangat Sanjayate Kama, Kamat Krodho Abhijayate. That while contemplating on an object, I develop attachment to it. And then from the attachment, lust comes, and if that's not satisfied, then anger comes. So that's the reason that Hriday-daurbalyam is actually a step beyond Asat Trishna. And then there is Kutinati, duplicity. There's duplicity in my heart, right? And that also includes fault-finding nature. Duplicity means that I have a mask on and I'm pretending myself to be somebody else. Okay. There's Matsarya, envy in my heart. Every living entity, envy is such a pervasive feeling in this world. Everybody is going through it. And nobody even realizes that they are envious. So if we are able to realize that, that's why I wanted to bring this out, that if we realize that it is envy, if we are able to know that this is the enemy that's sitting in my heart, I will be able to fight it better. And last but not the least is pratishtha. Pratishtha is pride, desiring name, fame, and adoration. So those are the qualities of weakness of heart, right? So what does it mean? Weakness of heart is that, if I give you in a more layman term, although I'm incompatible matter, I become enamored by it. Okay. So we as spiritual beings, when we look out through this body at something, we develop a desire to attain it. So that's contemplation, right? I see something, I like it. What arises from that desire is a connection with that thing, right? Or we all have this feeling, right? There is a car and then there is my car, right? Let's presume you're sitting in a room and you had parked your car outside, and suddenly you hear a big bang, as if two cars have banged with each other. And suddenly your heart starts palpitating, you start palpitating, your heart starts beating faster. Or could it be my car that got hit? And you go running outside and you see, oh, it's not my car, right? So it's probably Gopal Prabhu's car sitting out there. So then my heart becomes, oh, it's not my car, I'm okay. So there is a difference between a car and my car, and the difference is there because I have a connection with that car. I have made a connection with it. It suddenly becomes part of me, right? So, but then the basic premise in this world that we have to understand is asango khayam purusha, that I don't have a connection in this world. There is no sangha. We just imagine it. And from that imagination, that's where it takes us to Hriday-daurbalyam, right? And when we understand this Hriday-daurbalyam, this weakness, right? There's a frustration between my expectation and reality. So there's this huge gap between them, what I expect versus what actually it is. That angst is an indication that this is not my nature. So all this, what I'm seeing around is very gross, and I'm much, much subtler than that, right? So identifying the weakness of heart and realizing that I'm very different from that heart helps us come out of that weakness, right? So, and these attachments, sometimes people, fool themselves by saying that, okay, no, this is a good attachment. This is not bad, but attachment is attachment. All that is a mental concoction, right? All are trifling things. It's not real. It's like fool's gold. It might look like gold. The attachment might look good, might be presented as good, but it's not good. We think it is valuable, but then Krishna comes in, no, it's not valuable. It's fool's gold. It's not real, right? It only seems real because I'm projecting myself into it, because I've made an allegiance with it. So that's the concept of Hriday-daurbalyam. It's a very important concept, and it'll come more in the 15th chapter, which I will talk about more. But then this is what we have to understand. Okay, so now going back to, where's that? My book. Okay, we did Klaibyam, Hriday-daurbalyam. We talked about that. So coming to fourth, now Arjun will start speaking. Okay. So Arjun says, before I move forward, any thoughts, any questions, any comments anybody would like to add or share?
Yes, Prabhuji. This concept of weakness of heart, I think that's very significant. We see references to it throughout Srila Prabhupada's books, and I think it's very important to get a good understanding of this weakness of heart. So
Yes.
maybe you can re-summarize it, or or explain the key points about it, because
I can do that, Prabhu, and also we will do it more. 15th chapter, Prabhupada talks about it also, and 17th chapter. So there'll be more. We'll be talking about it. But yes, to summarize it is that so misidentifying things. So the allegiance that I make with this world is the cause of the weakness of heart. The moment I make an allegiance with something, I become weak in the knees. Okay, and I say that, okay, now because this thing belongs to me, now it's my problem and I have to solve it. So I have this misidentification that I have with things that are not valuable for me actually. Instead of giving those up, I double down. I say, yes, this is mine, and yes, I'm going to stand up for it. We want to stand up for our country. We want to stand up for our hometown school team, football team, basketball team. We have allegiance to them. We create an allegiance to them. I buy a jersey and I wear a jersey. Okay, I'm a Bronco. I forgot the name of the Baltimore Ravens football team. I'm a Ravens fan, and I go into the stadium. So that's a allegiance that I create. With this is all a mental concoction. But what happens with that allegiance that I've made? Weakness in the heart comes in. Now, because I have identified with something, because I've identified with one thing, there are going to be other things that are going to be opposite to me, right? If I have allegiance to Baltimore Ravens, obviously the other teams become my enemy. So now the concept of, as I was mentioning, concept of envy comes into my heart. So envy is as I was saying, the most pervasive and prevalent feeling out of all the Abhīṣṭa-dohaṁ. And the worst part is that I don't even realize that I'm full of envy. I have like truckload of it sitting in my heart. I don't even realize it. I justify it by saying that, no, this is not envy. This person deserves this outcome, or my anger, or whatever. But I don't realize it's because of my envy that I did that. Okay. And then pratishtha comes in. Now, because I have made an allegiance to my football team, I want the team to win. Why? Because I will be proud. I can go and show to my friends that, hey, my team won. So suddenly I'm desiring name, fame. That, okay, my team won. Baltimore Ravens won the Super Bowl, right? So all these things come into my heart the moment I make that allegiance. Is the basic, basic thing, right? So one
okay,
should.
so like envy, egotism, these are all byproducts of weakness of the heart. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, Prabhu.
Okay.
And that is why it's the most prevalent thing. I've put 4 of them in this chart. I just wanted to give you that what all the anarthas, how they are divided into. But out of all these anarthas, if you have to pinpoint something, Abhīṣṭa-dohaṁ is the most important thing for our personal spiritual growth that we have to overcome. So we have to overcome these this weakness to move into that unfettered freedom that Prabhupada is providing to us. Follow the 4 regulative principles, chant 16 rounds, and you will have this freedom that you all have been looking for. Because my heart will be free of all those knots that I have tied up because of my allegiance to things that are not valuable, which is a fool's gold, as it said. That's the summary of this.
Okay. So besides these 2 anarthas, envy, egotism, which other ones are you saying?
So as you see in this chart, if you see it, so there is pratishtha. Pratishtha is desiring name, fame. And then there is duplicity. There is duplicity in my heart, which is what duplicity means. If I put in simple terms, is that I put up a mask. I'm presenting myself to be somebody different than I'm actually are. I like quoting Shastra, and I like quoting verses here and there, left or right, to present myself as a scholarly. And down deep, I'm just nothing more than an ass. So that's something that's in my mind. Fault finding attitude. if you notice, I have noticed in myself that whenever I meet a new person, my first thought my mind comes to is to try to look at faults in that person so that I can judge that the person is below me, is inferior to me. I always try to do that. That's my nature. And all that is coming because of the weakness in my heart, because I have developed allegiance with these nonsensical things here. Right? So that's what it is for Prabhu.
Thank you. Okay.
Yes, and we'll talk more in the 15th chapter. Prabhupada, in the last verse of 15th chapter, 20th verse in the purport, he talks about weakness of heart. He gives us some answers to it, how to solve that. So we'll delve deeper into that. Okay, so let's go to the 4th verse. So here now Arjuna is starting to speak, and he's saying that, O killer of enemies, O killer of Madhu, how can I counterattack with arrows in battle? Men like Bhishma and Drona were worthy of my worship. Right? So this is an interesting twist here now. Arjuna is not convinced. Right? So as they say, right, a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. Right? You can lead a man to wisdom, but you can't make him think. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. That's the situation that Arjuna is in right now. And we all have our own International Society for Problem Consciousness. If you use that from ISKCON, it's like International Society for Problem Consciousness. I have developed it for my own self. And Arjun here is using the word Madhusudan. So the word Madhusudan is that he's a killer of demon Madhu. I talked about it. But then he's saying, so what Arjun is using that word is more of a sarcastic tone, that you killed demon Madhu, but you are asking me to kill my own teachers. And he's kind of indirectly, in a subtle way, asking, will you kill your own guru? Will you shoot arrows at Sandipani Muni? Right? Will you become Sandipani Sudan? As you know, if you just use that. So you want me to become Bhishma Sudan, Drona Sudan, but will you become that? So he's just personally attacking his teacher. And sometimes we all do that. We personally attack our teacher sometimes, because out of ignorance, I'm not realizing what my teacher is giving. And that's what Arjuna is doing here, a childlike argument, right? So the first problem that we see is that was that Arjun was then how to kill his family men, his own kinsmen. And then so when he was chastised by Krishna, dignified chastisement, not so deep yet, where Krishna is saying, why are you so weak? Why are you acting like an important? And don't be sentimental. This compassion is misplaced. You better get up and fight. So now Arjun brings out a different thought here. He's saying, you're advising me to kill my own guru. But in essence, if Krishna wants us to kill our own guru, then we should do that. That's what Krishna is asking him. But just because I am asking you to do it, you should do it. That's why that's the essence here. And in the next verse 5, the problem comes he's saying is Gurun Ahatva, right? So that what he's saying is that I don't want to kill my gurus, even though Krishna, you are saying so. Even though you are saying so, I don't want to kill my guru. Right? And we see there are so many episodes in Bhagavatam also, right? There is Shukracharya being rejected by Bali Maharaj. So if situations need be, guru can be rejected. But then it doesn't happen because guru and Krishna are the same. So, but in some circumstances that can happen, guru can be rejected. So then coming to the 5th verse, we're talking about, it would be better to live in this world by begging than to live at the cost of the lives of great souls who are my teachers. Even though desiring worldly gains, they are superiors. If they are killed, everything we enjoy will be tainted with blood. That's what Arjun is pointing out in the 5th verse, right? He's substantiating his point, which in the last verse which he spoke, he's substantiating it is further. So now Arjun is calling them Mahanubhava. Just imagine he's calling them, where should it go? Mahanubhava, great souls. So Swajana, he was calling them Swajana earlier. Now he's calling them great souls, but they're not great souls. They're unworthy of this respect that Arjun is presenting to them. When Draupadi was being disrobed, Drona and Bhishma remained silent. by allowing adharma to happen, and they became contaminated. Arjun is saying they're still great souls, right? If you notice that Draupadi's past, that pastime that happened with Draupadi is very traumatic for everyone on the side of virtue, right? But then Bhishma remained silent. And what was Bhishma doing? Niyamagraha. He was just trying to stick too much to the rules. He was thinking that, oh, she's been won in a match of gamble, so the Kauravas have a right to treat her whichever way they want to. So he was just doing Niyamagraha. We read that about in the Nectar of Instruction. Just following the principles without understanding. So just following the practice without understanding the principles behind it, right? But then, so Mahabharata, if you notice, Mahabharata is a story. It talks about both at a level of karma and also devotional level. So it has multiple principles. That's why you'll see such non-devotional things also happening there. So that's the reason. But so, and then Bhishma, then the next thing he did was he fought with the Kauravas, because he thought it was his duty to fight with them. So this is all on a karma kanta level. So on a deeper level, Krishna wanted to demonstrate that through Bhishma, that anyone who goes against the will of the Lord will perish. Even though he might be Bhishma, who had this boon that he will die at his own will. Right? So none of them, Drona, Bhishma, they were not worthy of being gurus because they didn't speak up in the assembly. So that's what is wrong in this statement that Arjun is making here, right? That they are Mahanubhava, they're great souls. That's a wrong thing to do here. Coming to the 6th verse, now Arjun is saying, nor do we know which one is better, conquering them or being conquered by them. If we kill the sons of Dhatrashtra, we should not care to live, yet they are now standing before us on the battlefield. So this is the 5th and the last reason for Arjun's lamentation, which is indecision. Right? Arjun has basically essentially two options: fight or not fight. If he fights, he will kill relatives. He will not be able to enjoy. If so then even if he loses life. But then he's not concerned about losing his life. The other option that he's giving is that not to fight and live like a beggar. But living like a beggar is a disgrace for Kshatriya. Right? Krishna is telling him already that this is aswargam and a kirtikaram. It will lead to infamy to you. So Arjun is seeing this as a lose-lose situation for himself. Therefore, he's saying, I don't know what to do. So when such a situation arises, when we come to a position, I don't know what to do, is the beginning of our intelligence. That is what Bhagavad Gita is teaching us. So intelligence means what to do when we don't know what to do. So I don't know what to do in this situation. I immediately look for divine grace. I pray to Krishna, Krishna, please show me a path. I am bewildered. I have no clue which way to move forward. Please show me a path. And Krishna will always come for our help. So Prabhupada appreciates Arjun's statement in the purport and hints towards his intelligence, because now Arjun is clearly saying, I don't know what is right and wrong. Right? So now in this material world, if you'll see, we have 3 different paths that we are given always. One is Jnana, path of knowledge, where we can demonize this material world. Everything is meant for, in this material world is going to give me suffering. Desire is the cause of misery. Everything is dangerous, so I'll detach myself from everything. Okay, so we have demonized the world. Then comes the karma marg, where we talk of romanticizing this material world. We say, this world has some problems, but I can fix it and be happy here. And that's where 99% of the population is in this world. But then comes the most important part, which is where we utilize this world, which is the bhakti path. We use everything for Krishna's service. Anukulasya sankalpa pratikulasya varjan. So we take up everything. No, I'm sorry, I'm quoting a wrong verse there. So yes, so we're using everything for Krishna's purpose. So everything in this world can be seen as a paraphernalia for Krishna's service. Right? So we don't demonize, we don't romanticize, we utilize. That's the important aspect here. So this is the 6th verse here. Now, 7th is the most important verse in this section that we are doing. Actually, it's one of the most important. It's the quintessential verse of Bhagavad Gita, right? So, if we are ever overcome by weakness of heart, we take refuge in this shloka. Right? When we are perplexed with this material world, we have been reading Bhagavad Gita, we have been reading the Shastras, we have been paying attention. All that intuitive knowledge that we have accumulated, that will help us realize that this world is a disappointing place, that I'm being plowed under by miseries 24/7. And what do? I take shelter of divine grace, and this becomes my qualification of devotional service. So understand that what here Arjun is saying is that, karpanya dosho pahata subhava parchami tvam dharma samhuda cheta yachreya sayan nishchitam bruhi tanme shishyasteham sadhi mam tvam prapanna. So he's saying that I'm confused about my duty and I have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. Now he's accepting that he has a problem, that he has a weakness of heart. And because of that, now he's realized his intelligence has kicked in. Now he's surrendering to Krishna. Right? So he has realized that, and it's that, so at this point, we understand that when I said, intuitive knowledge, what that means is that the world is created this way. There is going to be despair and frustration all the time. And because there is despair and frustration, and I'm not compatible with that despair and frustration, is an indication of my higher nature, of our higher nature, right? So this dissatisfaction that I see in this world, it means that this world is not my place to be in. I don't belong here, right? We are never in harmony with this world. We're always out of sync, right? And the moment I become aware of that, and I, take shelter of divine grace, then I have made the right choice, and our perplexity will go away. Right? So just imagine Guru and Bhagavad Gita as the control room at an airport. Right? The airplanes are always flying around, but they always stay in touch with the control room so that they get proper feedback. Right? So the job description, if you have to put a job description for a Guru and Bhagavad Gita, what they're doing is they're validating. So what they're validating is my decisions, that, okay, yes, this decision is correct. You can ask that to a Guru. Optimizing. So what is that? That, yes, all are valid, but what is the best out of even all of those that are valid, right? What is best without going through all the hassles? And then the third is navigate, keeping us on the right path. So the airplanes, pilots, I have mentioned this example earlier, the pilots are always balancing the airplanes. So just a change in 3 degrees. If let's say they fly from Los Angeles, they're flying to Washington, DC. Just a change in 3 degrees on their path can lead them to New York instead of Washington, DC, which is a significant difference. That is why the pilots are always bringing the plane back. 90% of the time, the pilots are doing is bringing the plane back to the track on the path with guidance from the control rooms, right? So that is what we need a Guru for. And the word Guru also means heavy. Right? If we have all the opinions in the world on one side and our Guru's opinion on one side, we will accept that opinion. That is why his opinion is heavy. So we have that faith in our Guru. Okay? So that's an important. So this is a very important verse, and it talks about the value of Guru. Right? Prabhupada is using the word. There's a use of miserly weakness, karpanya, right? So earlier Arjun was referred to as weak, and now he's accepting it. And if you'll notice that in this one purport, Prabhupada uses the word perplexity 10 different times, 10 times, right? It's a classic purport, focusing on perplexity. So, and how do we overcome that perplexity, as I mentioned, is by surrendering to a spiritual master. Right? You might meet so many people who might say, oh, I already know Bhagavad Gita. I know it fully. Yes, I might know it intellectually, but one truly knows Bhagavad Gita when we have a Guru. then only we can understand what the desire of Krishna is. Till that point, all our knowledge is theoretical, right? So spiritual master is not just a person, he's a principle also. And when we surrender to the spiritual master, that's the beginning of my search for God, my search for a permanent solution to the perplexities of this life. Okay. When Prabhupada kicks off this purport by a brilliant statement that by nature's own way, the complete system of material activity is a source of perplexity for everyone. So this material activity in this world by nature is a source of perplexity for everybody. So that's the essence coming here. So let's see what Prabhupada talks about. Yeah, okay. So Prabhupada is giving us the definition of karpanya here. Yova etad aksharam gargi avidit vasmal loka praitisa karpana. He's a miserly man who does not solve the problem of life as a human and who thus quits this world like cats and dogs without understanding the signs of self-realization. So what it means is that a person who does not use this life for to understand his higher self, he's a karpana. He's misusing this body that's been given to him. So Arjun had so many qualities, his academic qualification, his scholarship, high position. But then if he doesn't use that all for his upliftment, it's just a waste of life, right? It's just a waste of this human life. So most people have human birth, but the jigyasa, right? That the first verse of Vedanta Sutra is Atato Brahmo Jigyasa. If we don't become inquisitive to know the purpose of life, I'm a karpana, right? You might see a poor man, you might give him a Mercedes Benz, but then a poor man, he might use that to plow his fields with that Mercedes Benz. So our human body is for finer purposes, not like animals, right? So our superiority is defined by our consciousness, not by material advancement. So if somebody is spending his entire life in material advancement, which is not wrong, but then just material advancement is wrong. But if there's a God consciousness, a concept of God there, then it's okay. But then we have to use our lives for to understand what the problem of this life is and use it to its full potential for that purpose. And for that, we need a spiritual master. And Prabhupada says that who's a Brahmana, who's intelligent enough to utilize this body to solve all the problems of life. Okay, so this is one where we are at 8:20. So let's finish off this one and we can pick up on the next verse next week. Okay. So now Prabhupada is highlighting Arjun's situation here, right? That Arjun is realized that he cannot solve that problem by himself. Right? So Prabhupada is saying that his affection, Arjun's affection for family members and his wish to protect them were the causes of his perplexities. So even though he understood what his duty was, he could not discharge it. And therefore, he's asking Krishna for a solution, a definite solution. And now Krishna is no more, there's no more that friendly relationship between Krishna and Arjun. Now the relationship has moved to a disciple-guru relationship. That's what is happening right now. Right? So, and let me see. Okay, yes. So, by getting a spiritual master, we understand that Krishna is omniscient, and spiritual master is a transparent medium for Krishna. So we know that our spiritual master can teach us how we can get out of this misery that we have got ourselves involved in. right? And the omniscience of a guru can be taken into account by saying that the guru knows that the guru is always intent upon serving Krishna. Once what happened was that George Harrison asked Prabhupada that how do we know whom a bona fide guru is? And Prabhupada said to him that understand or find out how much is he attached to serving God. That will tell you who a proper guru is. Right? That is why Prabhupada is a perfect guru, because he was 24/7 thinking about serving Krishna. Prabhupada never claimed omniscience about himself. He said he didn't say that, oh, I know everything. He would make quote unquote mistakes, right? We see many incidents are there. So we don't say that our master has paranormal capacity. No, we don't say that. So we understand that, but because they have aligned themselves completely to Krishna, Krishna gives them complete knowledge, how to move in life, how to guide others. So they have complete knowledge. So that is why the guru is important, and that is why we should surrender with our intelligence to guru. That's the whole essence of this this one purport here. Okay, I'll take a pause here. I think I don't want to start the next verse. We can do it next week. Anybody has any thoughts or comments that they want to add on here? Anything that stood out for you in today's discussion?
Thank you, Prabhuji. It was some amazing class again. I look forward to Wednesdays to your classes. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any more thoughts? No? Okay. So we'll wrap up. We'll start from the 8th verse next week. Hare Krishna.